All right, welcome back. Some of you have been asking me if you're working on an ASP.NET server-side project, how is it that you can go and interact with third-party web APIs, meaning if you're not using a mean stack and you're using web services and whatnot, how is it that you can, how can you implement things that can also interact with third-party web APIs, but from the server as opposed to from the client. So I wanted to talk about that, on how is it that we can merge these two technologies, right? The server side, ASP.NET with SQL Server and whatnot, and merge that, integrate that with an MVC JavaScript framework, okay, such as Angular. So first, let's take a look at something we looked at earlier in the semester on client side code that was able to interact with some of these web APIs. The one we played around with early on in the semester was an API that allowed us to retrieve movie information. I don't know if you remember that. We play around with my API films that allow you to query movie information. So let's recreate a little bit of what we did, but let's now do it within the context of ASP.NET, okay, and see how we can merge these two technologies together. We'll use the AngularJS to interact with the web API to retrieve data, and we'll use ASP.NET to store information in the database, retrieve things in the database. We'll try to build something where users search for a movie and they might like a movie, so we're going to need to store that information in the database. So let's see how we would do that. So first, let's take a look at the at how is it that we would retrieve data. And if you remember, there were two very specific URLs, very specific APIs that allowed you to query the database for a specific ID, for a specific movie, if you had the ID, or allowed you to search for a collection of movies that match a particular title. Okay, so this one allowed you to go and type in a title and search for it, and it would come back with it would give you the URL that you would need. Okay, that's the URL that if you open it, you see the JSON that you would get from that query. Notice that it's an array. Right? It's an array of JSON objects. It's a JSON array, right, that contains various JSON instances. In this case, just one, because we gave it there's a limit here on how many we want. Let's remove that limit. Let's see. This is title. The limit is 10, meaning we want 10 movies. And let's query that. Let's generate the search again. So anyway, so we want to be able to do this from within our client, right? And if you remember, we ran into an issue that of cross-browser security issues, right? And to circumvent that, we used instead of the JSON format, we used the JSON-P format, right? And so notice over here it says format JSON. That's the default. The default is to ask for the JSON format. But now that we've chosen JSON-P, notice that it's a little bit different. Okay, so this is the URL we want to use from the client. Okay, from our browser. So let's copy the link, and let's try to access that from our own application. Okay, so in the experiments, let me create here a directory where we're going to be working with a couple of experiments. We'll call this AngularJS and ASP.NET. Okay, so let's create here a search, right? We can search for movies, And usually we use an HTML page, right? But let's see how we can work within ASP.NET, right? So let's create an ASP page, web form, and we'll call this movie search because we want to search for the movie. So to do this, first let's load a couple of libraries here. We'll need to load Angular. So let's load Angular. So script, source, go one up, another one up. I think it's under JS. It's not finding it. Why is it not finding it? I think it's under JS/Angular. Let me see. We're down here. We're going to go up one, up another, and yet another. All right, so we need to go up 3. And under there, we have Angular, I believe, JS. There it is, Angular min JS, Angular min JS. Oops, oh, I closed the wrong. This one. Okay, so Angular min.js. Okay, and we're also going to bring on board the CSS library of Bootstrap, which is located under CSS, and it's just Bootstrap CSS. So let's go up. So this is link href up 1 up 3 CSS bootstrap.css. Okay. All right. Let's what else do we need to do? We'll need to let's see. We'll need to declare this to be our application. ng, what do you want to call it? ng app, movie app. And that needs to be declared in a JavaScript file, right? So let's create that JavaScript file. We'll put it right next to ours. So say add JavaScript file. We'll call it app.js, and in here it'll be something like var app angular dot module. What do we call it? Movie app? Movie app, right? Yeah, movie app. And we're not using any plugins. Okay. Any other modules? Right? Okay, that's that. We need to bring that JavaScript we just created on board. So script, source, there it is, app.js. And finally, we'll create a controller here, ng controller equal, and this will be movie search controller. Okay? So this controller will be responsible for this one piece of real estate. Okay? We'll paint this as class container, and this will be h1 movie search. Okay, so let's run this, see if this works. Okay, we didn't declare the controller. Let's declare the controller. The controller would be app.controller. That's the controller. Function, we'll need a scope. And we'll send a hello world, a hello to the UI hello world. And ASP, we're going to render that. Let's see if we can render that message. Hello. So that hello should render as hello world if this is all running. Yes? Right, we did this about a month ago. We were doing this, right? So let's run that. Oops. What? The name create movie. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, that's a separate project I was working on. Close that. Close that. Let's run. No, what's wrong? What's this? Something else I was working on. What is it? What's that? Let's try it again. All right, it says hello world, so the controller is working, right? The controller is hooked up to the front end. Yes? All right, so that's working. All right, so let's go search for a movie. Let's put here the search results. So we're going to put here search results from having searched the movie IMDb movie API. So let's do that. Let's go fetch. We have the URL somewhere. Did we copy it? I think I copied it, right? Is it still there? No. Let me copy it again from here. Let me copy it. Copy link address. So here I'm going to say var URL is equal to that long URL, right? And let's look at the URL. Should say the format is JSONP. There it is, JSONP. Very good. For this to work, for Angular to be able to use this JSONP URL, it needs to add one more thing at the end of the URL. It needs to add a callback attribute with a constant JSON callback. Okay, that's so Angular can make this JSON call. Okay, and we're going to use $HTTP to be able to make that invocation. Okay, so this should all be refreshers to you, right? You should be all experts at doing this already. So we're going to do a JSONP. We're going to use that URL. And if the URL is successful, it's going to pass us a response, hopefully an array of objects. And we're going to send it to the client, to the UI as search results. Let's say scope search results is the response. So we're sending the response to the UI for rendering. Okay. Let's refresh our page. Let's refresh. Okay, so we're getting the data from the API, right? It's an array, right? It's an array of various objects, and we can iterate over this, right? Using the techniques we looked at a couple weeks ago. Table, class, table striped, and this is table row, and this is table data. And the table row is going to iterate over how many movies there are in there. So it's going to be ng repeat equal what? Equal movie in search results. Right? And in here, we're going to put movie.title. Right? That's one of the, right? If you see countries here, right? One of the attributes is title, right? So I'm going to print out the title. So let's see if this works. Let's re-render this. There we go. So we got the titles, right? We got 10 titles, all right? All right. So this again, I'm not going to go too much into this. No, this is something we did about a month ago. What we want to do is how could we, use ASP.NET to perhaps interact with SQL Server, how to insert, update, delete, right? Things that I might like. Okay. All right, so let's do that. So one of the things I might want to add here is I would like to go to a details page. So href, go to a movie details, right? ASPX. And I'm going to pass as an argument the ID, right? The ID IMDb. I'm going to pass it as an argument, and it's inside of movie dot ID IMDb, right? That's part of the object model that is coming from the response, right? In the array of the array of objects. And I'm going to close the A. I'm going to say details, right? And I'm going to paint this. So I'm just going to leave it as a plain hyperlink. So it's fetching the data. There it is, details. Okay. So if I click on details, it's going to go to an ASP page that doesn't exist, right? So let's create that page. The page is called, let's see, the page is called Movie Details ASPX. Let's create it. And notice that it's taking as an argument the IMDb ID. You see that? Okay. So let's grab that. Let's see. Let's actually, before we do that, anything we could improve here? Is there anything we could improve? Right. Remember what we said that it was kind of a bad practice, right, to use this HTTP right here in the user interface, right in the controller. Right. Their better design would be to have a service, right, that would encapsulate all this access. Especially because I'm going to go to another page. I'm going to have another controller that's going to want to make another call, right, to the movie service to retrieve things. And it'd be nice if we could encapsulate all those accesses to the URLs to this service all in one single service. Very much like the DAO pattern, right, the data access object pattern. Over there, we're encapsulating all our database access, right? We're putting all our CRUD operations under one roof. Same thing here. Same thing applies here. We would like to encapsulate, all our access to, outside networks and services all in one single service, right? So a better solution to this would be to have this app dot factory, right? And call this, the movie service. Right, and then this would be function that takes as argument HTTP because it needs HTTP, right? It needs HTTP, and provide some kind of nice API such as var, right? Find movies by title, right? And that's a function that takes a title. Right, and it goes off and returns the titles. So this would be, and which is return an API that says find movie by title. Right. So this is a better solution. So we would copy this, right? We move this out of the way, right? We move it out of the way, and we'd put it in the function instead. Put it in the function. And now the service can be passed to the controller like that. Now we can use the service, right? It's abstracted by the service. It can be reused by many controllers as opposed to by only this controller, right? Same thing that we were been teaching this week about the DAO pattern, right? Instead of doing the SQL access everywhere, right, across many code behind pages, right? We instead put it in a single place so they can be reused everywhere in different pages. Same idea here, but we're not here. We're not accessing a database. Well, actually we are, right? We're accessing somebody else's database through a URL API, right? Okay, but the same concepts apply. Okay, so this now would become what? Would become a movie service dot find movies by title, right? We pass an argument, say avatar, and we would expect a reply, right? And as a function reply, as a response that comes back, right? Which actually would be this function right here. It would be this function right here, that function. Right? It's this function right here. So I'm just going to paste it here. And we pass that function as an argument to the service as a callback. So what the service is going to do is just going to call us back with the response. Okay. Let's try that. See if we broke this. Let's go back. Refresh. Okay, still works. Okay, so we didn't break anything. Okay. One other thing we might want to do is right now it's hard coded. The title is hard coded, right? So we might want to parameterize that. We could say maybe the URL is, maybe we could declare the URL here, right? This is the URL. Maybe we're going to be using several URLs, right? One for finding one, finding many. So maybe we should name these, right? So find movies by title. Okay, that's the URL. And then we can parameterize the title. We can make it a name here. Maybe call this title, movie title. What we could do is we're going to use, we're going to pass the URL, but we're going to replace movie title with the argument title that you pass as an argument. See that? That's a parameter, right? So I'm going to replace this. So that's the URL I'm going to use. What else? Let's see. Okay, so that's avatar. Let's see if this still works. Let's see if I broke it. Okay, still works. All right then. But actually, is this searching anything? It's searching a hard-coded avatar, right? Ideally, what would we want to do? We would want maybe an input field here where you can type the name of the movie, right? Click on a button and then it'll search, right? And then so let's add that. Let's go to Bootstrap for one of those really nice, input boxes with like a search button on the right-hand side. I think that's in components, and it might be, or maybe in the forms. No, maybe in the forms. Let's see, forms. I think that would be in the CSS. If we go to forms, there's quite a few things here we can use. So we're looking for something like this, like an input field with a button on the right-hand side. I think they have one down here we can copy. Maybe, no? Maybe not. What? It's not here. Really? Whose phone was here? Or maybe it's after the buttons. No. I guess maybe it's it is component then. Components. Input groups, button groups. Is that it? Button groups. Button groups. I think. Oh, here they are. There we go. That's what we want, right? An input field with a button at the right-hand side. So let's copy that. Let's copy it right here. Row, blah, blah, blah. It's this one, this input group. Input group. There we go. Let's copy that. Let's put it right at the top. Okay? Put it at the top. And what we're going to do is that we're not going to search immediately. We only want to search when you press the button search. Yes? Right? So here's the button. Where's the button? We're going to rename the button as search, right? And we're going to say, we're going to do an ng click. We're going to call search, right? Search movie. Okay, we're going to call an event handler in the controller search movie. And in the input field, we're going to tie it to the model as movie name. So we're going to say this is ng model, the movie name that we're going to search by. So movie title. Movie title. Okay. All right. So on the controller, we can then, instead of this doing it right away when the controller loads, instead we're going to put that inside of an event handler. We're going to say when you press on search movie, Then you're going to do this. Okay? And I'm going to pass as argument movie title in the call. Movie title. So here's the title, movie title. And that's what we're going to pass the function that searches. Okay? Let's see if this works. I refresh. I have the input field. Where I have the input field. Notice that it didn't search anything because I haven't typed anything yet. But if I type Titanic, I do a search, it doesn't work. Oh, there it is, finally. Yeah, Titanic, remember the Titans, Titanic 2. So it looks like it's working, right? We click on we click on something, it searches, right? So if it's Star Wars, click search, there it is. So it is working, okay? And when I click on details, it'll go to the details page with the ID in the request. Yes? Okay. All right. So let's create this page, the movie details page. And this is an example of what I mean, right? In the requirements document for the project, right? To have a search page, right? And then have a details page, correct? And then when you start interacting with the details that you save, you like, or you comment, or whatever, that's what we're gonna do this right now. We did it on using the mean stack a while ago. We're gonna do it now with ASP.NET. Okay. All right. So let's create the movie details page here. So let's say add. Stop this. So add new item. We'll call it movie details. Movie details. And then in the movie details, I'm going to load the same libraries, the same JavaScript, and the same link library. So I'm going to load this. Put in here. And I'm going to paint this as class container. But notice what the difference between the mean stack. In the mean stack, we declare the application only once. Remember that? We declare the app only once, and then we would use routing, ng routing, to inject content into a single page, into the index page. Remember that? Over here, the routing is not being controlled by Angular, right? The routing is being controlled by the server. The server, this is server side routing, right? You're actually loading the page anew, as opposed to in Angular, you never load a page, right? You only load it only once, right? And then everything else is injected. Anyway, so let's declare the application again. We say that the controller, we're going to create a new controller for this. ng controller, we'll say that this is movie details controller. So this movie details controller is going to be responsible for this page, okay? Whereas movie search controller was responsible for the other page. Yes? Okay. So here's the movie details controller. What do we need to do? We need the controller. Let's declare the controller here, right? So the controller is going to be app.controller movie details controller, and this is going to be function scope. And notice I don't need the HTTP anymore, right? Instead, we're using the service. So this is movie service. Okay. All right. So there's the controller. Let's make sure that it loads. All right. So it's not blowing up anymore. So that's encouraging. Let's put here an h1 movie details. Okay, movie details. It's loading. There it is. It's loading. So what we're going to do is let's go fetch the details of this movie, right? Notice we're yet not using any ASP technology just yet. All right, we're still doing all client side, right? Other than routing by the server is still an Angular application, right? Okay. All right, so we have a URL to fetch a movie by ID. It's somewhere here. Where is it? It's up here. There it is. Example of using an IMDb. So I do have an IMDb, I think, don't we? We have it right here. Yeah, there it is. So we have an IMDb. Let's type it in there. And we want JSON-P. I'm going to search. And that's the URL. I'm going to copy the URL. And I'm going to go into my here in my controller, and I'm going to create another service, right? So here's a service that allows that knows how to find things by title. I'm going to create another endpoint here. I'm going to say var find movie by ID IMDb. Right. So here's the ID IMDb. Right. And here's the callback. Okay. And I have the URL. Let me paste the URL before I lose it. So this is var find movie by ID IMDb. Let me paste it there. There it is. Okay. And we're going to need at the end of that, we're going to need this extra attribute at the end, and this extra query parameter. Okay. All right. So what's this going to do? It's going to very similar to this, right? Very, very similar, but it's going to use a different URL. It's going to use this URL instead, right? Okay. And it's going to replace, instead of this hard-coded IMDb, it's going to use movie underscore IMDb. We're going to replace that with the IMDb that I'm passing as an argument, right? And then I'm just going to recall you back with the data. Okay? And I'm going to expose this as an additional part of the API. Okay, so finally, in my movie details, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to grab that ID, right, that's in the URL, right? And I'm just going to call this this new find movie by IMDb, right? So I'm going to call movie service dot find movie by IMDb. There it is. Actually, I need an IMDb ID IMDb. I don't have one. I need to parse it out from the query string, right? I need to parse it out, and then do function. Then send the movie that comes back. Send it to the UI, right? This movie as a response. Response. It's a function response. There we go. I need an IMDb. I need to parse the IMDb out of the URL. To do that, I'm going to need another service called the location service. The location server allows me to parse the URL. Okay, all the various parts of the URL. What it does that if you can grab a map out of the, you can grab a map. Let me just show you. I do console log map. So if I'm here and I show the element, and I do a console, right, and I do a refresh. Oops, what happened? Injector module, blah, blah, blah. No. Did I mistype something? Location. Anchor error. Module unavailable. Movie app is not available. Oh. Movie app. Movie details. App. Movie app. Is it not? Is that not the name? Movie app. It is. Movie app. Movie. Details, blah, blah, blah. ID, engine controller. Movie app. Body. Maybe I need to Run this again. No syntax. No, this is a syntax error. I must have not closed something. Token app32. App32. App32, line 32. What am I missing? Functoin. Okay. Function. There we go. Let's try it again. Okay, I think it's not complaining anymore. All right. Let me go back to my to details. Refresh. Do I have an IMDb at the end? I do. Okay, I have an IMDb. Oh, it's not. Didn't search it. Didn't find it. Let's see. What am I missing? Is it location? Search? Is it search? No. Let me print this. Let me see. Search. Let's see. What do I have? Path, protocol, search. Yeah, there is a search. Why are you saying that I don't have a search? Search. Parse. Let me look it up. AngularJS parse query string parameters. Yeah, it is location. Location. Host. Protocol. Let's see. Oh, it only works with a hash. Okay. All right. Only works with a hash. Only works with a hash. Will it work like this? Let me see. Hash, will this work? And if I do search console the map, no. If I do the hash here, there it is. Okay, that worked. Yeah, I need to add a hash in front of it. ID IMDb. What am I missing? ID IMDb. Okay, that worked. Okay, so I have a map, and so I can grab from here. I can say console log, and from the map I can say map sub what? I want to grab the IMDb. So ID IMDb. There it is, right? I can grab now the value, right, of the ID. Okay, so let's see. Right, so I can say map var ID IMDb is equal to map ID IMDb. All right, now I have it. Now I can pass that variable to the service, and the service will come back with the details of that movie, and I'm going to display it in the UI like that. Okay. I'm going to fetch the movie, and there it is. So it returned. There it is. It returned the details for that particular movie. So if I go back, right, I go back to a movie search, and I search for the Star Trek. I search, and I click on so I click on, Star Trek The Next Generation. I click on details. I get, oops. What happened? ID IMDb, incorrect ID IMDb. Really? What did I send? Let's see. ID IMDb undefined. Ooh. Something went wrong. Let's see. What am I missing? IMDb. Let's do a console log ID IMDb. Let's refresh. It's undefined. Console map. Oh, right, because I still need the hash, right? So the hash, I need the hash. Where do I need to put the hash? Right here, right? Okay, that means that from the URL that I'm coming, right? That I'm coming, I need to put the hash. So in the search, right? When I create the link, where's the link? Right here. Here's where we create the link, right? I need to put the hash right here. I have to put hash for this to work. Try it again. Let's go back. Let's look for Star Wars. Star Wars, search. Star Wars episode 9? What? I guess they're planning already, I guess. Star Wars detours. Okay. All right. So if I click details, right? Oh man. Wait, did I refresh? Let me refresh. Star Wars. Star Wars. Search. Let me hover. Let me see if the link looks correct. Okay, the hash is there. The hash is there. So let's click here. Okay, finally. All right, we have the details, right? All right, so say I want to like this, right? Definitely want to show all the details and whatnot, and then the user, the logged in user, wants to like this, right? How would I store it in the database? That's the question, right? Let's first display this movie details in a little, so it looks a little prettier. We'll say we'll use title. Maybe use a div, class, row, and div, class, column, XS2, and this will be label. So this will be for the title here, and we'll put the this column. We'll put another column. Div class column. We'll do it size 10, and we'll put the actual title here, right? So this would be movie.title. Okay, so let's refresh that. There it is, title right there. What else do we want to display? Let's display the plot. Oh wait, yeah, there it is. Okay, plot. Wait, no, we need another row for that, right? We need another row. So we'll create another row. Wait, column. So let's create another row. And over here we're going to put plot, and we'll display the plot. And that's it, right? Let's refresh. Oh, this is Star Wars 7. It only says a continuation of the saga created by. There's not too much plot for Star Wars 7. So let's go back and do another one. Let's search something that we already do have. So Star Wars. So A New Hope. If we go details. Okay. All right. I get quite much more plot in there. Okay. So let's say I want to save it. If I want to save it, what I want to do is tell the database, right, or tell ASPX that, hey, I want to save this. I like this movie. Right? I want to bookmark this movie. Okay? All right, so let's see how could we do this. What we want to be able to do something is like, for instance, we need the ID. What we want to store, the only thing we want to store, or the minimum that we need to store, is the ID of the movie, so that we can fetch it at a later time, right? Okay. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to do ID IMDb, And we're going to display here, instead of displaying it like this, okay, I'm going to display it as followed, as an ASP colon text box, right? The ID is going to be ID IMDb, okay? It's gonna run at server, right? It's gonna be run at server, and what else? I think that's it. And I'm gonna populate it. I'm gonna give it the value. I'm gonna give the value, because remember, how is this gonna be rendered? It's gonna be rendered as an input field, correct? Right? So I am going to put ng model. The model for this is going to be the movie dot ID IMDb. Right? Remember, we are iterating. Oh no, I'm not iterating. I'm sorry, not iterating. I have the movie object that is coming from Angular, and I am setting the value of this input field in the client. Right? So I am rendering it on the server, but when it gets to the client, it's just a plain text, input field, right? Right, and it's going to have ng model. Angular is going to parse this and it says, you want to populate it with the value of the movie.idmdb. Okay, so let's hover and do this again. There it is. See that? That's the ID. And what can I do with that ID? I can retrieve it from the code behind, right? I could retrieve from the code behind. I could put a button here. Let's put a button now. It's an additional row. Okay, I'll call it a bookmark or like or whatever. And instead of a text box, this will be an ASP colon button, right? ID. It's going to be a bookmark movie button. Okay, run at server, and when they clicked on this, I want to run an event handler in the back end. There we go. Okay, and the text I need text too. Is going to say bookmark. Okay, we can style this to make it look a little prettier, right? So this could be maybe. This could be a form control, right? And this could be, right? This could be a regular button, right? So this could be BTN, button primary, button block, right? So it takes up the whole screen. Let's refresh. Oops. Oh yeah, so we created the event handler for the button, but notice that it created it. There it is, right? There it is. We're gonna save it. I'm going to save it, and now let's try it again. There it is. So we can bookmark it. So if we click on bookmark, it's going to post this right to the server. And what are we going to do in the server? We're going to store this in the database. Okay? We're going to store this ID in the database so that we can remember that this person likes this movie. Okay? All right. So if I click on bookmark right now, it's not doing anything. What we're going to do is that after bookmark, we're going to go back to the search. Okay, we're going to redirect and go back to the search. All right. So what do we want to do here? What we could do right here, right, is do SQL connection, right? But what did I say about putting data access here? Right, you shouldn't. Right, instead you should have a DAO. Instead, right? So let's do that. Let's create a DAO. Let's populate the DAO. The DAO is, I want something like this, right? Like movie DAO, right? DAO, new DAO, something like this. And DAO dot user likes movie or something, right? I would need to give it the ID of the currently logged in user and the ID IMDb, right, of whatever whatever they chose over there, right? And it's text. There's a text. So something like that, right? And then I want it to redirect. I want to say, something like response dot redirect and go back to search, right? So something like movie search dot ASPX. All right, something like that. Okay, but we don't have this. We don't have this right now. So user likes movie, and we want the IMDb. Actually, a little better would be actually create an entire movie instance, right? No, new movie, right? And populate it, populate the ID IMDb, populate a whole bunch of things, right? And then tell the database to store the whole thing. Okay, so let's write this. Let's write this. Let's create in our database. Let's stop the server. Let's create in the database that we've been using for this class. We have tables, I think. All right, so we have a movie table. Let's see what we have in there. Let's open it up. And let's make some changes here. Let's see. Okay, so we have movie. I'm gonna drop this table. I'm gonna start all over because it doesn't have much of what I need. Does it have data in here? Okay, I have a couple of. I guess we can modify it. Let's see. Okay, instead of this ID, what I want to do is I want to call this ID IMDb. Okay. I want this to be a varchar. This is going to be my unique. The uniqueness will be the ID IMDb. It's not going to be an identity, right? I am going to provide you with the ID IMDb, right? I'm going to give you that from the remote server. It is a primary key. It is a primary key. What else? What else? We have title. We have plot. What else do we want to store here? Maybe the URL. We have a URL here. Poster URL. There it is, poster URL. Let's store that here too. This is going to be varchar max. Right, it's going to be a long URL. Okay, so let's update this. So let's see if it lets me update. I don't know. I think we made way too many changes. I don't know if it's going to let me. Yeah, no, it didn't like it. Did it? No. It didn't let me. Refresh. But let me copy this before I lose it. Movie, refresh. No, it didn't work. Okay, I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to drop it. What? Oh, let me close this. Close that. Just drop it. Oh, okay, it did drop it. So add a new table. I'll call it. I'll paste it. Paste that. Update. Proceed. Correct. Primary key unnamed. Blah 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 blah. Has an unresolved reference. Wait. IMDb. Create a movie. IMDb title. Blah blah blah. Title varchar. What is it that you don't like? Create table movie ID IMDb. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, let me start all over. New movie. Movie table. Movie. Okay. What are you complaining about? Primary. Unnamed has an unresolved reference, blah, blah, blah. Oh, is somebody referencing this? Oh, maybe, yeah. Movie, so okay, let me call this something else. Movie API, how's that? Okay, then I guess we could just name it something else. Movie API. Okay, there we go. I'm going to update. And let's see if we created it. Let's refresh. All right, we're going to use that movie API. All right. Okay, we're going to put stuff in here. Okay, so let's see. What I want to do is when I click on bookmark, the DAO is going to do an insert into that page saying, you know, this movie, right? This person liked the movie. So let's do that. Let's create an object here, right? In experiments, I'm going to here. No, an app code. App code, we're going to do an experiments in the 4550. We're going to create a movie titles DAO, add new item, new class. We'll call it movie API DAO. And in here, we're going to be able to do what? We want to be able to create a new movie, right? We're going to say public void create new movie, create movie. And it's going to take as argument a movie API movie. Okay, this class doesn't exist yet. Let's create it. The class will be movie API, and it has as attributes, it has public string ID IMDb, setters and getters, public string title, setters and getters, public string plot, setters and getters. What else? The URL, right? Public, what was it called? URL poster, URL poster, setter and getter. Okay, and maybe a constructor, movie API, that takes as argument all these, right? String ID, string title, string plot, string URL, and it just copies them over. So ID IMDb is equal to ID, title is equal to title, plot is equal to plot, to P, and URL is equal to URL. Okay. All right, so let's go back here in the DAO. When I create a movie, what do? What have we been doing so far all this week? We've been using what? System, right? .data, .SQL client, right? And under there, we've been creating a connection, you know, SQL connection equal new SQL connection. We're going to connect to the database that we're working with, which is this one. Looks at the properties. That's the connection string, and I'm going to paste it in here. Now that we're connected, we're going to do, usually it's a good idea to put this in a using. If you put it in a using, what happens is that any resource that you instantiate inside of a using will be automatically disposed of right at the end. Okay, will be garbage collected. All right, so I have the connection. I'm going to open the connection, and now with the connection, I'm going to need a command, right? A command. So I'm going to say using SQL command equal new SQL command. No, not the new SQL. Sorry. So connection dot create command. Now we have the command. We're going to do an insert, right? So the text of the command is insert into movie. Movie, what do we call it? Movie API? Is that what we called it? The table. I think we called it movie API. And we're going to insert into ID IMDb. I'm going to insert into title, plot, and URL poster. The values of the same, right? But with the @ sign in front of it because I'm going to pass arguments here, right? Okay. So I'm going to parameterize all these. CMD parameters, new command parameters dot add new SQL parameter, and the names are at IMDb. I'm going to pass movie.idimdb. Oops. What? I'm going to pass. Are we passing it? Oh, create movie. No, not. It's this type, not that. There we go. Movie. Movie.id IMDb. Why is it not finding it? ID IMDb. There it is. And we're going to do the same for all of these, right? There's 4 of these. Title. What are you complaining about? What's wrong? Am I missing a parenthesis somewhere? Ooh, yeah. I closed the parentheses too early. I need parentheses out here. There we go. So title, plot, and URL poster. All right, so I've configured everything. And finally we can execute. We can say cmd.execute non-query. So that's going to insert it, right? That's going to insert it. We might want to put all this in a try, just in case any of this throws an exception. So let's catch exception E dot. Well, let's ignore it for now. But definitely a finally where we close the connection. Dot close. So finally, the keyword finally guarantees that the connection will be closed, right? Even if there's an exception thrown, right? The exception might want to kick us out of here, right? And that would leave the connection open. We never got a chance to close the connection, right? But if you put it into the finally clause, you're guaranteed that it's going to be invoked. Okay. All right. So very good. So we're going to create the movie. Let's see if this works. Let's go back to our page. Where's our page? Details. Here's details, right? And here is okay. What do we want to do when we click on bookmark? We want to create that new movie. Right? Where do we do that? I think we did it right here, right? There it is. But ours is called Movie API, right? Movie API. And it takes us argument what? The ID IMDb. And do we have a place? Yeah, we have it, right? ID IMDb. We have a text box that has that, right? We don't have the title. We wish we had the title, right? Actually, we can go to the details. Instead of showing the title like this, we could show the title just like we did over here in a text box, right? So let's do that. We could use a label too. Right? And this is going to be the model for that. So this is going to be movie title, and the name of the text box is going to be called title box. Okay, and for the plot, I'm going to do the same thing. Plot, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to copy it here, paste it. Here it is, and that's going to be its model. Oops. Paste it here, and I'm going to call this plot box. Plot box. Anything else? Oh, the URL, right? Let's do the URL as well. Let's do the URL. Let's copy this here. This will be the URL. And in here, it'll be URL poster, I think it's called, right? URL poster. And this will be URL poster box. All right, so now that we've declared over there, in here, now we can grab those, right? We can grab the title from the box, text, there it is, text. We can grab the plot from the plot box. And we can grab the poster, what do we call it? URL poster, poster box, text. So that instantiates our movie object, right? We need to send it over to our DAO to insert it into the database. Yes? All right, so let's do that. So let's instantiate our DAO. Although our DAO could be movie DAO, API DAO. There it is. API DAO. And then we can just say DAO dot create movie. There it is. I'm going to say I'm going to pass movie. And once I pass movie, I could redirect maybe to like the profile. How's that? Let's redirect to a profile page. In the profile page, we can show all the movies I've liked, right? Okay. So after liking it, let's see. Let me refresh this. Oops. What is it? Movie, blah, blah, blah. Text box does not contain a definition for text. Oh, I misspelled it. It's capital text. Refresh. There it is. We have Star Wars. There it is. A young boy, the plot, URL, the IMDb. So when I bookmark it, hopefully it'll go to a database. Right now, I think our database is empty. This is our table. We can look at the data. The data right now, I believe it's empty. There's nothing. There's no movie that I like. When I hit bookmark, okay, it went to the profile page. Let's see if it inserted it. Let's refresh. Okay, there it is. It inserted into the database. Right? In our database, now we have listed that we like that movie. Okay. In the profile page, we can retrieve all the movies that I like. Yes. So we can create that page, the profile page. In the profile page, let's see. Let's create add. A new item. We'll call it profile. And we'll load the same kinds of libraries that we're using. So let's go at the top. We'll load this. And we're going to actually, we're not going to need Angular here, right? But we're going to say here container, class container. And we're going to do here, we're going to say h1 profile. And we're going to put a repeater here. We're going to have a repeater, ASP repeater. It's going to show here all the movies that I like. Okay? So this is going to say ID movies, movie repeater. And this is going to be run at server. And then I'm going to have a template here that's going to allow me to display the title of the movie. So it's going to have, percent hash eval. Presumably they're going to iterate over all the movies that I like, right? It's going to show all the titles of the movies that I like. So eval the title. So it's going to show the title of the movie. So as it iterates over all the movies. So I need to feed this repeater with data from the back end, right? So let's do that. We can go in the profile. So on page load, I want to use movie API DAO. API DAO, oops, DAO, right? I like to be able to find all the movies. I can say, I want a list of all the movie APIs, right? And movies from DAO, find all movies. But I don't have, that's not implemented, right? So let's implement that. Once I have that list, I can send it to the repeater for rendering, yes? Right? So to do that, that's very easy. We can just grab the movie repeater, which we just declared, and say that its data source is that list. And then once it gets the data, we can bind it. Data bind it. Okay? So we have to implement this find all movies. Let's go to the DAO, where we put all our code for data access. Where's our DAO? Our DAO is way up here. So over here, we're going to say public list of movie API. This is find all movies. And it's going to do the same thing. I'm going to copy most of this. I'm going to just copy it here. Copy. Paste it. Oops, I forgot to copy something. What happened? Oh, this didn't copy. There we go. We got the connection. The text is not going to be an insert. It's going to be a find, right? It's going to be a select star from movie API. There's no parameterization. And we're going to execute a reader. We're going to execute a reader. There it is. And this is going to be what? This is going to have a SQL data reader, which is going to iterate over all the rows that come back, right? So we're going to say, while reader.read, as it's reading, is going to extract each one of those records. And as I go, I'm going to instantiate each object, right? Movie, new movie API. And I'm going to populate it with the data that comes from each row. So the ID IMDb is going to come from the movie ID IMDb. I'm sorry, no, repeater. Sorry, repeater. Oh, no, reader. I'm going to have to cast this to a string, right? And we have all the other attributes, right? We have IMDb. I have the title. What else do I have? I have the plot, and I have the URL poster. And those are in here, right? Plot, title. Okay, and then we're going to add it to a list of movies. So movies.add. Oops, well, I don't have a list. Let's create a list. Create a list. We'll say list of movie API, movies, new list of movies. Okay, I'm going to add each movie to this, right? So I'm going to say movies.add movie. Right, and then finally at the end, I'm just going to return, after the while loop ends, I'm just going to return movies. Okay? All right. All right, let's see if this actually works. Let's see if this works. Let me run the profile. Okay, the profile, something died. Let's see, while movie API movie, error, expected. Okay, I forgot a semicolon. Like a semicolon. Here. Refresh. Oh, wait a minute. Movie, not all code path. Okay. It might be that if it fails, if something fails, I might have to return a null here. Return null. Okay, it worked. It didn't blow up, but it didn't retrieve any movies. How come? Let's look at the code. Movie DAO, movie repeater, DAO, find all movies. Don't I have all movies in there? They are, aren't they? Show table data. Yeah, it's there. Let's follow along. Let's see. Page load, movie API DAO, repeater, find all movies, and find all movies is this. Find all movies. Movies, connection open, command select star from movie. Oh, I misspelled it. Movie API. Let's try it again. All right, there we go. Right, we're able to retrieve the movie that we liked. Yes, right. And maybe we can navigate to search for more. Right, so we can go to movie search. And we can search. Let's see. We can see aliens. Movie aliens. 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 This one. Let's go see. There's the details for the Aliens movie, and I want to bookmark this. And what happened here? Did it not insert? It didn't insert. Oh, it did insert. How come it's not showing? Why are you not showing all of them? Aliens is there. New Hope. Refresh. Let me look at the code for the DAO. Movie reader. Select all from movie API. That is the name of the table, right? That is the name of the table, movie API. I don't think it cares about. No, it's already selecting one. It's instantiating, it's adding it. That's weird. Movie. There's a container. H1, Star Wars. Repeater. Oh, it is there. Aliens. It's just printing it on the same line, right? Really, what we want is when it's repeating over it. Okay, what I want to do is maybe have this like in a UL, maybe. Okay, like that, and maybe this would be an LI. So very fresh. There it is. The two movies that I liked. You see that? Right. The next thing would be. How about if I click on this, I want to go back to the details page. Huh? You know, for instance, if I can make this a hyperlink, right? I can make this a hyperlink. href. Oops. No. href. I want to go to the details page again. So movie details.aspx. And the ID IMDb going to be equal to it's going to be equal to this, but the IDMDB, right? The IDIMDB. Notice that these are hyperlinks again, right? But if I hover over it, notice that at the end I have the ID. See, it says ID IMDb. Oh, we forgot the hash. It has to have a hash in front of it, right? So right before the question mark, it has to have a hash. All right, let's refresh that. So I can click on this. I can now go back to the movie details. See that? Right? Notice that I'm not showing tons of other things. Over here, I can show the simple plot. I can show artists, database, right? Any original title, the director, the writers, when it came out, rating, release date. None of that I want to store in my database. Okay, those are all way too much details, right, and minutia that I'd rather go pick it up from the remote database. Yes. The only thing I'm storing here is the minor things like title, plot, maybe URL. Definitely IDMDB. That's a minimum that I need, right? Instead of a bookmark, I can have maybe an unlike, right? Or maybe like a review or things like that. And all those would be inserts into the database, right? So for instance, how about we add another button here in the details page. In the details page, I can have another button right here. It says, so this one is maybe called like, and this is unlike. Okay, and if you click on that, it'll go to unlike movie. So unlike movie button server, and this is, there we go. So that on our back end, we can have a separate, what do we call it? Unlike? Is that what we called it? Right, unlike movie. And that would do the same thing. We would get a movie DAO, right? And we have the ID. We have the ID, and we would remove, because we would say, oh, actually, we don't want to insert a movie, so we don't need the movie object. We do need what? We do need the ID. So we would do something like create a movie. We would say maybe remove movie or delete movie, and we would pass the IMDb, which is ID IMDb dot text, right? And then we would be redirected to the profile, right? So delete movie. Let's do the DAO. Takes as argument the IMDb. Let's see this. So the DAO, we need what? Remove. What do we call it? Delete movie. Delete movie, right? What do we call it? Where is it? Movie details. Yeah, delete movie. Okay. So in the DAO, we can say public void delete movie. It takes as argument string the ID IMDb. All right, so the query is almost identical. So let me copy this, right? I'm going to copy it all the way down here. I'm going to paste it here. And the SQL command, there's the SQL command. The command is not select. I want to do what? I want to do delete from movie API where ID IMDb is equal to an ID that I'm passing, ID IMDb as a parameter. We're going to configure it. So cmd.parameters.add new parameter, SQL parameter for @ID IMDb. I'm going to pass this, I'm going to configure it to be the value ID IMDb that I'm passing as a parameter. And then I execute a non-query, right? So execute non-query. And then I'm done, right? Done. Right? Movie details. I think that's it. And then we go back to the profile. So let's try that. So let's refresh this. Oops. What happened here? Execute non-query. Data reader. Oh, it doesn't return a data reader. A non-query doesn't return a data reader. So let's go to the DAO again. There we go. We don't need a data reader. Refresh. Okay, so there it is. So I don't like Star Wars anymore. I click on unlike, and I go to profile, and notice that it's not there anymore. right? So the only loop that it would be is maybe have a link here for a search page, right, where you can go to a search page and search a whole bunch of things. This makes sense? Okay. How could we have front end framework like Angular connect to a backend ASPX to save this to a database? I notice we're not using any web services like we would do if we were using a mean stack. Right? In the mean stack, the way Angular connects to the server is through a web service. Right? The way that the front end here talks to the database, to a back server, is to post the page. The page gets posted. See that? All right. Okay. All right. I'm gonna leave it here.